How does grief affect you mentally? Grief affect you mentally in that it may cause you to become depressed. And depression is one part of the grieving process. At some part of your grief, you may suffer from depression, right? Even if you may not realize that it is depression. So depression is extreme or severe sadness, right? And depression is not just sadness, but it affects your whole being. It affects you in that it may cause you to be very weak. It may cause you to not be able to function the way that you should. In the first 2 years of my grief, I was severely depressed. I did not have energy. I did not have interest for anything, and I was just very sad. And it lasted a while. I would just do the things that I needed to do within a day to survive. So my son was my main focus each day, getting him to school, getting him something to eat, getting him ready for bed were just some of the main tasks that I would do because like I did not have energy. And then at that point, I was also working from home. So I would wake up and I would get myself clean up and then I would just go to my desk to sit down and try to function. The moment I do the things that I needed to be done, I would just climb into my bed because, listen, I had no energy at all. I spent most of my time in bed, and that's where I found strength. Until after 2 years, I started to find myself getting interest in different things. I started my healing journey. I started to walk and I started to gardening and I started to do little things that my body would lean towards naturally. And those things were what I did to help me to come out of depression. Another way that grief affects your mental health is that it may cause prolonged grief disorder, as what they call it. So if your grief lasted for a while, they may call it prolonged grief disorder. My grief lasted and I am still grieving. I still suffer from the effect of the loss of my spouse. So it's not only that you lost the person, but the effect of that loss and the effect can last for a while. I am still trying to recover from things that my body has been going through since the loss of my spouse. Another effect that it may have on your mental health is that it may affect your cognitive. I am in the accounting field and it affect my cognitive in that I could not focus, right? I couldn't concentrate. I could not remember. I just could not function in that area anymore because of the effect that grief has on my cognitive. It affects your memory and you can do nothing but wait until time for those areas to be healed. I went to the neurologist, I went to my primary, and I went to all the specialists, and there was nothing that they could do. I did all the tests. They said, oh, it's grief. You just have to go through it, right? So it's a process. And it affected my career in that I have to step back from my career for about a year because I could not function in that field because of the impact that grief has on my cognitive, right? It depends on the type of career that you are in, whether you may be affected or not affected. So that's one way that grief affects you. Grief can affect your mental health also in that it can cause you to have suicidal thoughts. I didn't necessarily have suicidal thought, but I was at a place where like I didn't really care about life anymore. A lack of interest, the lack of everything, the lack of motivation, the withdrawal, not being able to socialize or want to socialize. So I was in that place where like I just didn't care anymore. I was just living, or I was just going one day at a time trying to survive. So I was just in survival mode until I started to find interest in different things which caused me to kind of like live again A lot of people suffer from suicidal thoughts. And if that's something that you suffer from, then you may need to call the emergency so that you can get help where that is concerned.